Coming up, the week of prep is done, and now it's time for some Sunday fun. New York Football Giants hosting the Minnesota Vikings. Home opener, century season, century uniforms. We break down the final key matchups, some quotes from defensive coordinator Shane Bowen, and of course, Andy's bet of the week and game predictions all coming up next. Yes, my friends. It's OGP, the One Giant Podcast, where you know that we are your hosts over here, Adam Marmot, over there, Andrew Mackwitz. We're healthy, we're wealthy, we're wise, and we're finally ready for game time. How are we, Sir Andy?
Leak!
Oh, we're trying to start a trend here.
Oh, no. That is what Malik Nabers has said he is most excited for. He said when he catches that first ball and he hears the Giants crowd be electric, he wants them to scream out leak. So I'm just prepping all the OGP listeners. When he catches that first touchdown, if you're in the stands, when he catches that big first down, you got to shout out leak. Everyone is pumped about it.
Isn't that like a soup?
Well, I mean, it's a vegetable, but it
Sure.
can be in a soup.
You know delicious. Yeah, leek soup, right?
Well, I mean, anyway. But he is cook. If Malik catches, he is going to be cooking. So
if Malik's cooking, you better call leak. All right. Anyway, we'll be interested to see how the Giants fare. But it's a good reminder, man. This is Malik Nabers' home debut. It's his rookie debut. You want to make him feel like New York Football Giants fan base is going to be ready to explode on every single play that he makes. Hopefully, there's a lot of electric runs along the way. Told you at the top, we're going to be talking about bets of the week. We're going to be talking about our favorite plays from around the NFL, as well as some underdog picks and, of course, game predictions. But off the top, Andy, let's go ahead. After everything we've broken down throughout this week, what are your one or two key matchups, key situations you're going to watch for on Sunday, especially, let's just say, especially early on in the game?
So it's kind of twofold, Adam. I'm going to give you the two, and I want you to give me which one you feel more strongly about. First one is Brian Daboll versus Kevin O'Connell. It is two coaches that are considered or around the league as very highly regarded offensive minds. Obviously, Kevin O'Connell comes from the, Sean McVay, Kyle Shanahan coaching tree over there. Brian Daboll is, has bounced around, but he is considered such a quarterback whisperer. So I look at those two as the first matchup of like, who do we think has an advantage there, seeing what Kevin O'Connell did with quarterbacks off the street last year after Kirk Cousins went down. And then it just points directly to Daniel Jones versus Sam Darnold. This is the first time we're going to be seeing Sam Darnold in a starting role since he went in with the Carolina Panthers after a terrible stint with the Jets. You have Daniel Jones coming off this knee injury. To me, it's about the two coaches that are coaching up their quarterbacks. And these two quarterbacks, who's going to win that battle when we talk about the quarterback and the offensive coaching staff?
Tell you right now, you want to have a chance to win this game. Daniel Jones better outperform Sam Darnold. I mean, the world where they go toe-to-toe, certainly it's a possibility. One of the things that we mentioned in terms of areas that are going to be interesting, it's in the trenches throughout the week, but we never said the name like Dexter Lawrence often enough. We're going to get some quotes from Shane Bowen about that defensive side, but I'm looking at the front, and I'm looking at Sam Darnold, and I'm saying, yes, I know that you have Justin Jefferson. I know that there are some weapons here. I know that you have Aaron Jones behind you, but I need a guy who has a historically bad record when it comes to playing under pressure, a career pass percentage of 21.7% and a sack rate of 11.5% when the pressure is brought on him. And that doesn't need to be blitz packages all the time. Dexter Lawrence needs to be disruptive in the middle. We know they have a quality and experienced offensive line, but I'm looking at Kayvon Thibodeau. I'm looking at Bobby Okereke. I'm looking at Brian Burns, and maybe I'm even looking into that safety room at certain points. If you're going to bring that extra pressure, you got to get home and be disruptive. Don't allow him to find his rhythm. Keep him off his mark. It's the easiest thing you can do, the best thing you can do to help yourself against a guy like Justin Jefferson is disrupt the timing of everything they want to do offensively. So I'm going to circle, double stamp it, no erases. Dexter Lawrence and that defensive front has to be active early in this game.
It's funny that you say that too, because if you think about the converse side, Jerry Tillery, the defensive tackle for the Minnesota Vikings, is going to be looking right across from John Michael Schmitz. And as we've seen, it's been quite a mixed bag for John Michael Schmitz. He's been injured. When he's been healthy, it hasn't looked great. Everyone is talking about the ascension for JMS and being a productive player on this offensive line. I feel more confident in Jermaine Illuminor right now knowing that, he is a veteran presence in the building. You've got Greg Van Roten. You've got John Runyon Jr. You have all-pro caliber Andrew Thomas. To me, I look at it and say, what can John Michael Schmitz do at the center position? Because to me, that's the biggest question mark for this offensive line going into this game.
No, 100%. And we've actually talked about throughout the week. There's a bit of a mirroring happening about the areas you want to watch, where both teams can have success, how you want to get that offense starting to find its rhythm. So, listen, I do think the coaching dynamic is interesting. And obviously, when you look at someone like Shane Bowen who comes in, Andy would tell you that if you watched Hard Knocks in the offseason or just some of the speculation, that Shane Bowen maybe wasn't the first choice for the New York Football Giants when it comes to the defensive coordinator position. But he's the man they got. And there is just this little footnote here that I found humorous. Couple quotes from Shane Bowen here. But when they were talking about how to describe the defense, you ended up having Isaiah Simmons saying that, trying to figure out what you would call it. Is it aggressive? Is it passive? Well, it's kind of passive aggressive in a good way. Like when you talk to people and you feel like they are yelling at you, but they are not yelling at you. This is what Isaiah Simmons is trying to characterize for Shane Bowen's defensive system. To call an offense explosive, whatever that is equivalent to on the defensive side, fast, physical, swarming. Now, there's a couple things to take away from here. We'll allow Shane Bowen to clarify with his quotes. One, I don't know if Isaiah Simmons knows what he's doing out there because he seems pretty confused about how to describe it. But two, I think this is going to be that stark contrast, which we knew coming in compared to Wink Martindale. I think what Isaiah Simmons is trying to communicate is we're going to kind of be amorphous. We are going to be a unit that you don't know where we bring our pressure from. You don't know whether or not we'll drop into zone coverages. You don't know how we're going to rotate our schemes. And that's going to hopefully create some value for this unit because we know there are areas of deficiency. So how do we create some unique looks for Sam Darnold on Sunday? I'm cleaning it up for Isaiah Simmons. I think that's what he means.
Did Isaiah Simmons watch Hard Knocks? Like, did he tune in? Because like Shane Bowen gave a great overview of he's like, we do the 3-4 defense. We rely on the defensive line. We need the edge rushers to win one-on-one because we don't send very much pressure. And the middle linebacker is the central nervous system to this whole thing. He did it in like 20 seconds. I was like, I totally get what Shane Bowen's going for here. Isaiah Simmons is like, when Vanilla Ice is trying to say that he didn't steal David Bowie's under pressure. He's like, yes. No, mine's like dun, 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 diggy, dung. You're like, I don't know what he's talking about. So Isaiah Simmons, maybe before the game Saturday, tune into the first couple episodes of Hard Knocks. Get yourself familiarized with the defensive scheme that Shane Bowen wants to run.
I'm going to go ahead and allow Dexter Lawrence maybe to clarify it for you. As he says, the defense is about letting the D line eat, Lawrence said. That's how you want it. Let the big guys take control of the game and don't give the quarterback enough time to throw an accurate pass. And to extend that, because that seems a lot cleaner than Isaiah Simmons, I want these guys to attack, Bowen said, before Thursday's practice. It's a play style. When you play defensive football, there's an expectation of physicality, toughness, and being aggressive throughout. That's totally different than scheme and what that is. He values violent hands on the line of scrimmage, downhill linebackers, physical defensive backs who tackle with their chest in the run game. So listen, let's break it down to brass tacks. He wants guys that go out there, play aggressively, play within the system, and when the opportunities come, they go ahead and let the opposition know we're here. Doesn't mean you're always going to get there before the pass arrives. Doesn't mean you're going to get that running back behind the line of scrimmage. But when you tackle, when you contribute, make sure you're doing it the smart way, the right way, and laying some wood on the opposition. It's a good identity to try to instill into this unit.
I love everything that he said. It's not about bringing extra numbers. It's about those people being physical that
do
are
your
going
job
to be at the line of scrimmage. Yeah. And thank goodness that's the scheme. If they were like, man, we rely heavily on the cornerback number 2 position. That is the linchpin to everything we do. We'd be like, well, that's a problem. And you've mentioned it countless times. Joe Schoen looked at Shane Bowen and said, if I get you Brian Burns, this is all you're going to get. And he said, I am happy with that. I can work with that. And so to that point, it's that defensive front that Dexter Lawrence talks about eating. It's about Kayvon Thibodeau, Brian Burns, and Bobby Okereke. That is the nucleus up front that will decide whether the Giants win or lose games on the defensive side of the ball.
Coming up here in a second, we're going to turn our attention over to the bet corner. Andy's bet of the week, some of his favorite plays. But before we do, a couple of nuggets, a couple of low-level guys to think about on Sunday that could turn the tides in this game for both sides. We'll go ahead and cover that coming up here next. All right, so as we continue with our Friday edition, Andy, game preview, Giants hosting the Vikings at home on Sunday. I wanted to cut this thing off to the side here a little bit because we know that the Vikings are going to come in. They're going to have Justin Jefferson. And you can even go the layer deeper and you can look inside the wide receiver room of Jordan Addison or Jalen Naylor. Like, there are some players here that obviously have been contributors throughout their careers. But man, if you wanted to pull out a name that might go unnoticed at a high level, I would say Josh Oliver, the tight end. Because when you sit here and look at him, you go, I mean, is that really that big of a deal? He played 4 games his rookie season. He played 14 games and had 15 targets in his second year in Baltimore. And by the way, he's on his 3rd team of his career. That's right. But last year, he had 22 receptions on 28 targets and 213 yards. And when you talk about a team that front is about stopping that run and setting that mentality, there are going to be moments when knock, knock, Isaiah Simmons, you may need to pick up the tight end coming off the line, or where you may look in the linebacker room and say, who's going to cover him? Could be Bobby Okereke, could be anybody dropping off of that line of scrimmage. These are one of those kind of moments where, listen, it's not going to be your number 1 or number 2 concern on Sunday, but on those key 3rd downs, when you need 5 to 7 yards, I'm going to be irritated if I look up and it's Josh Oliver, maybe out in the flat with a few yards of space around him. You need to kind of look for those easy role players that could make life simpler for Sam Darnold, especially when pressure comes.
Yeah, just keep in mind, TJ Hawkinson is a Pro Bowl caliber tight end who is out at least potentially to the bye week for the Minnesota Vikings.
Let's be clear here. I would list him if he were playing, right? There's a missing link.
Of course, but how important was he to their offense when Kirk Cousins was there over the middle? Yep. He allows them to not just key in on Justin Jefferson. Without him, it's going to be a little bit tougher for them. So Oliver is a perfect call out, Adam. He doesn't obviously have the offensive skill set that someone like TJ Hawkinson does, but he has to be able to catch the ball when he's called upon. Don't be surprised if the tight end group, especially with a quarterback like Sam Darnold, who's trying to get his feet underneath him, is that security blanket over the middle.
Andy? Let's go ahead and turn our attention before we wrap back around to game predictions. And then we'll highlight guys throughout here as we talk about our bets of the week and fantasy plays. But it's time to go into Andy's bet corner. And now we got to build. We got some bells and whistles here. We need some theme music most likely. But we've got 3 plays from you, Andy, including your bet of the week that breaks down where you can have success. But we're going to do it differently this season. Give me the Giants. But hey, if you want to hedge a little bit, Vikings as well before you hit the BOW.
Yeah, so I wanted to make sure that we address everything outside of the bet of the week. Now, the way that I'm phrasing this is the one that I am most confident in, where if you only have one opportunity to put one wager on one game, my bet of the week is the one that I would recommend most. I think that we had some pretty good success last year. Let's see if everyone else agrees. But I want to make sure that we give an overall Giants one as well as a Vikings one. We're going to do this every week. So, Adam, New York Giants wager. I think a really good one this week is Darius Slayton anytime touchdown. You're getting 6-1 on your money. We have a write-up on the website on One Giant Podcast. You can go read the detailed analysis that we've put together for this. But you're getting 6-1 on your money. I don't believe Jalen Hyatt has usurped Darius Slayton yet. I think when the chips are on the table and Brian Daboll needs someone to make a play, I believe Darius Slayton is going to be out there because he can run all the routes. He is a veteran presence. And you saw even in the preseason game, Daniel Jones was taking shots for guys like Darius Slayton who were making plays. So for me, 6-1, he's the 4th or 5th option on the Giants. And he's certainly a wise wager to be able to put at least one unit on. Adam, tell me how great that analysis was.
No, I mean, listen, you go back to the preseason and we're waiting for Jalen Hyatt to ascend. I think that the security and the comfort level of Darius Slayton, not only for the Giants and Brian Daboll, but also for Daniel Jones coming back from the injury. He's obviously the most familiar face that they have going on there right now. So you're still going to look at this as being an opportunity where all eyes are on Malik Nabers and then Wan'Dale Robinson. So as you get down around the red zone or inside the red zone, maybe there's that little 15 to 17 yard anytime touchdown pass to Darius Slayton. He may only grab 3 balls in this entire game for under 40 yards, but one of those key plays, and I think you have to be a little more confident that he started to improve in that area of holding onto that football, some of those deeper shots that we've seen the Giants take in the last couple of seasons. He bounced back around that area. So I like that play a lot. And you said listen, man, you put down, you talk about 6-1 odds. It's not a bad play if you're taking a peek.
Yeah. And when we switch it over to Minnesota, the one thing that I looked at, you talked about it quite a bit. How does Shane Bowen and his defense react What do they look like? What is their identity? And their identity is letting the big boys eat up front and being physical. I am taking Aaron Jones under rushing yards. Right now it's at 54.5 on most betting websites. Now you may
Yeah.
say, Andy, that's insane. Aaron Jones has run for 100 yards in all five consecutive games to end the season. That was with Jordan Love. That wasn't with Sam Darnold. That was against different defenses, a whole different scheme. And, Aaron Jones isn't getting any younger, right? And so for me, Shane Bowen gave up Shane Bowen's defense gave up 3.8 yards per attempt last year, which was the fifth in the league in terms of defending the run. Kevin O'Connell, whether it was through not having a good run game or having to pass the ball from being behind quite a bit, he is ranked 30th in the amount of rushing play percentage per game. So when it comes to it, he likes to throw the ball more because he likes to get it in his quarterback hands and Justin Jefferson's hands. There's a whole host of other statistics that'll show you. Shane Bowen defense went up against Aaron Jones once before, 12 carries, 40 yards, didn't really get any big plays. So for me, I think the Giants defense is setting up to say, make Sam Darnold beat you, make him in his 59% completion percentage complete a lot of balls downfield, and let our defensive front eat. So for me, another unit, Giants stuff the run. That is the identity that we are talking about, Adam.
Dude, unless I like it, man, go bullish, right? You got to hold down one area of the game. It's going to be the rushing attack. It's going to be Aaron Jones. I'll find it fascinating to see. Go back to last year. Obviously, it was Kirk Cousins, but when Justin Jefferson went down, you saw the Vikings shift more to a 12 personnel, keep in the extra tight end, but you're already down a tight end as it stands right now. So the Vikings might be pigeonholed a little bit here into formationally how they want to go out there. I like it. Now, listen, I think the Giants are going to do a good job. 52.5 does seem pretty low. I don't know how bullish I would be on that bet, even with Aaron Jones, but I'm not, listen, I like your style because it's a Vikings bet, but it's really a pro Giants take. Let's get to the meat of it all, though. You're on a desert island, and your only chance to make it home to safety is to put in this one bet of the week. This is your deadlock.
So, the forgotten man so far, with all the Malik Nabers hype, will Jalen Hyatt or Darius Slayton be the guy on the outside? We continue to forget how important Wan'Dale Robinson is to this offense. And when you hear other players around the league, like CeeDee Lamb's, like, that guy Wan'Dale Robinson is awesome. Like, the amount of separation that he gets, the routes that he can run, and the advanced metrics show that, like, the separation that Wan'Dale Robinson gets is top 8 or 9 in the entire NFL from the wide receiver perspective. Daniel Jones will need him to be successful. Right now, Wan'Dale Robinson's over-under on receiving yards is 29.5. It started a couple days ago at 27. A lot of the betting sharps are looking at it saying, how could this miss? And if you look at his track record, in 2022, he averaged 37.5 yards per game receiving. In 2023, even with the turnstile of Tommy DeVito and Tyrod Taylor and Daniel Jones performing very bad, he averaged 35 yards per game. So we're talking about all he has to do is meet the expectations of an offense that wasn't very explosive and had a poor offensive line last season. Adam, he averages about 9 yards per reception and just over 5 targets a game. If he catches four balls for 9 yards, you're talking about 36 yards there. You're already at his average, obviously. I think he's going to have maybe 5 or 6 catches in this game. I think he comfortably gets over 29.5. That is my favorite bet of the week.
Yeah, no, listen, I love it, man. We come out of last season. I said it feels like he is being unheralded coming out of a year where he had 60 receptions on 78 targets. The catch percentage is obviously elite. He gets diminished by the fact that it was 525 yards and only 8.8 yards per reception. Okay, fine. Like I get why it doesn't feel like he accomplished a lot. It was only 35 yards per game last year. Guess what that is? That's more than the over-under for this week 1 against the Minnesota Vikings. So even in what feels like a good, but maybe not great sample size for some, I thought it was a great indicator. Now you put Malik Nabers out there, I would punch that one 100%. So I'm down with it. If, though, Andy, we're talking about getting a little bit fun here, I'm not going to go crazy, to be honest with you. Most years, every single week, and I'll get there this season. But, man, there were some pretty easy parlays here to throw together. New York Giants alternate spread -2.5. I like that number. It's a little bit of a preview of where I think I'm headed when it comes to our game prediction. I would take that. You can combine it with over 1.5 touchdowns for Daniel Jones. You say, boy, that's bullish for Daniel Jones. Well, I already said I think he's good for 20 plus touchdowns this year, 20 to maybe 22 touchdowns. If I'm circling games where he's going to be a multiple touchdown thrower, it needs to be against the Minnesota Vikings defense. You go ahead and you say, Malik Nabers. We don't wait weeks into the season to get his first grab. He takes it today, plus 150, getting his first touchdown of the year, anytime score. That gets you plus 535. But we want to be a little bit sexier, boys and girls. So we go ahead and we add in Daniel Jones over 225 passing yards. I can't be bullish in all these other categories and then not think he's capable of throwing for 225. They had just 7 games last season with all the injuries, and Daniel Jones wasn't there, where they had over 200 passing yards. You put that together, you get to plus 925 on a little gentlemanly 4-leg parlay. Didn't even go full spider with 6. We're just here to have a good time. Everybody go home safe.
The listeners are just hoping. All we need on the Adam betting corners is just hit one of those. Just over the course of a couple weeks, maybe we hit one of those pops.
Yeah.
And you're feeling pretty good. You're free rolling into the next 6 weeks of the season. So, Adam, it's aggressive. I kind of like it. It's exactly what I expect from an Adam Armbrick. Nice little parlay to get everybody paid.
You better believe it. Coming back here on the other side, we'll talk about some fantasy plays for the New York Football Giants in this game. And then we'll turn our attention to game predictions, not only for Big Blue, but also our favorite that we like, our underdog that we're into, and then also throw in our Sunday Night Football matchup, as we'll be tracking all season long how Andy and I fare as the OGP hosts go toe-to-toe. We'll dive in just one moment. Oh, baby. I'm still kind of reeling from all the Andy Bet Corner stuff here. There's a lot of information there.
It's a lot of
like
data points, Adam. I get it's a lot. I understand. I want to keep our OGP listeners informed so they're not like, is he just pulling this out of thin air? No, we break down the numbers and the metrics, and we want to make sure to give people exactly what they can win on.
One of the things, man, when we talk about some of the fantasy plays for this game that I find really interesting, like you mentioned, anytime touchdown for Darius Slayton. Listen, if you're in most of your fantasy leagues, you're probably not stashing Darius Slayton to see how things shake out. But you go back to a year ago, nobody, you know who had the highest yards per game receiving last season for the New York Football Giants, Andy?
No, hit me with it.
It was Darren Waller with 46. Darius Slayton had 45.3. Those are your high water marks. You mentioned what Robinson with 35, 22 for Jalen Hyatt. That almost seems like a high number given how little it felt like he was on the field. But remember, 23 catches on 40 targets for him. If I'm looking at fantasy plays, I like the Wan'Dale Robinson play inside of this game offensively. And then I'll be honest with you, man, there's a sneaky one that I am so curious about. I'm not going to tell you to play him this week, but I'm going to tell you to watch what he does. This is more of a long term. Go ahead and play Devin Singletary if you got him in your fantasy league. I think he's going to be good for some nice chunk yards and a goal line touchdown. But what happens with the return of Tyrone Tracy Jr. from his what felt like potential season-ending injury? I think that he is a sneaky fantasy stash. So I'm going to give you more season-long outlook here. Watch how many reps he gets on Sunday, because even though I liked Eric Gray in preseason and what he showed, I don't think we got the full hierarchy of the running back room because Tyrone Tracy Jr. went down.
You mentioned Devin Singletary. I point directly to that. It seems pretty basic, but when you listen to Brian Daboll's words, he was like, he's an all-purpose back. He's a workhorse. He's a guy that we can give it to in all different circumstances. I think Jordan Hernan just tweeted out, expect him to be the bell cow. He's going to get 80% of all of the rushes. Like, that's how the Giants view him. They are going to feed him, Adam. They are literally going to feed the rock to Devin Singletary. If you were looking for a plus matchup for him, this is obviously it. You mentioned earlier in the week just kind of some of the ratings and projections of like what could be really good matchups for someone like Devin Singletary. This Minnesota Vikings one is absolutely one. So if you have him and you're questioning who to play in your flex or second, running back 2 position, you could do a lot worse than Devin Singletary this week.
Yeah, first 5 weeks for the New York Football Giants from a schedule standpoint are going to be really nice for them. They graded out as a 94 weeks 1 through 5 from a running game matchup. So you have to feel pretty darn good about a player like Devin Singletary, especially to say Jordan Renan. If we're going to be doing the bell cow, there's probably going to be lots of feast there. And again, man, if you're in a PPR, I can't undersell this. I'm not telling you he's going to have 4 and 5 catches a week, but I think he'll have at least a couple every game. Like if he's going to be in their bell cow, then you have to assume when they need to swing out of the backfield, he can get a couple of looks. Even just 2 catches for an extra 7 to 12 yards, that's kind of a needle mover if you're going PPR. So keep an eye on him in that regard as well. Okay, everybody. Before we get into our New York Football Giants final prediction of the game, let's take a look around the league, Andy. Who do you want to go with? We're going to each take our own favorite and underdog of the week. We'll put those in the books to carry forward, and then we'll also give our Sunday night prediction there, which is going to include, a little NFC darling called the Detroit Lions.
Yeah, so we won't. I don't want this to take too long, but we want to make sure we're
Keep
tracking to
it
see
clean.
how the picks are, Adam. So we're gonna go pretty quickly through this. I just want the listeners to understand the new format because we want to get into the predictions of the New York Football Giants game. It's why we're all here anyway. But if you're looking for a favorite, trying to figure out what to do here, I love the Los Angeles Chargers over the Las Vegas Raiders. The quick synopsis is: I trust Jim Harbaugh and Justin Herbert more than I trust our beloved Antonio Pierce and Gardner Minshew with Zamir White. I just think that Jim Harbaugh is going to get this thing going very, very quickly. And we saw Justin Herbert has the upside to be a top 5 quarterback potentially in the league.
Sure.
Give me them laying a field goal at home. That's my favorite. Adam, who do you like?
Yeah, it's a good one. Yeah, listen, -3. You got it. The Harbaugh era is going to get off to any kind of success, and Herbert as well. Like, you got to turn this thing around. It's got to start week 1, especially against the team of the Raiders. We don't expect big things from over the course of this year. All right, I'm going to go ahead and keep it sexy for the people. Let's go ahead and take a little spin out there to Cleveland. This isn't, I'm calling it my favorite. Why? Because it means the Dallas Cowboys start with a loss this season. -2.5 at home for the Cleveland Browns. Obviously, real questions about the quarterback and Deshaun Watson and getting himself back on track. Remember, Jerry Jeudy has kind of looked as like forgotten man out there now. They also have a former Dallas Cowboy there in Amari Cooper on the outside too. I kind of like what they're working with there. And yeah, I took Chase Brown as a sleeper in running back position over in my fantasy league. Give me them as my favorite because I'm a man of the people, and I believe this division needs to do some losing early in the season.
I love the fact that you are rooting against the Cowboys. What is not to like? I will turn it over to you to give your underdog. Let's see if you have the same one as I do. I have a feeling we have different ones in this one.
Underdog. Yeah, here's a fun one for you. Because again, we're trying to play it sexy. Underdog for me. How about the Denver Broncos going out to Seattle? They're getting 5.5. There's this world where everyone thinks, well, it was such a disaster last year, and Sean Payton, and you had Russell Wilson. I'm not so sure that Sean Payton isn't a maniacal genius, self-sabotaging all last season just to come right back around, clean things up. There's a little bit of a buzz. You got Bo Nix there. I kind of like the energy of it. I'm not saying Seattle's going to have a bad season, but I do think the Geno Smith love is slowly going to taper off here. Give me the Denver Broncos on the road. Getting 5.5, baby. Those are big points.
The Seattle Seahawks are a very popular survivor pick because they're like, oh, Bo Nix, rookie quarterback going on the road. Remember, he started, I don't know, checks notes, 11,000 college games. Like he's the type of guy that probably won't get rattled from that. That's an interesting pick. Mine is going to be one that I might be out on a limb by myself on, Adam. And that is I want to take the Carolina Panthers.
It's never good when you're laughing as you go to give the pick.
Because I feel like I'm the only one that's feeling this so far. Give me the Carolina Panthers getting 4 points on the road against the New Orleans Saints. I just think the New Orleans Saints, this is like the reckoning year for them where Derek Carr is not the guy and like Alvin Kamara maybe looks a little slow. Bryce Young can't look any worse than he did last year. Dave Canales worked with Geno Smith in Seattle, then revitalized Baker Mayfield's career in Tampa. You have to think Bryce Young, if you're ever going to see something from him, Dave Canales is going to be the guy to get it out of him. So I'm going with like everybody probably loves the New Orleans Saints because the Carolina Panthers were a tire fire last year. I don't know. I think they keep it close, and Bryce Young looks way better than he did last year.
Yeah, I don't hate it. And mostly it's because I'm not really bullish on the Saints. That's really what it comes down to, right? So make yourself a puncher's chance. And by the way, these are underdog plays. It wouldn't be fun if we said teams that you assume have a chance to win the division. So I'm taking the Broncos on the road in Seattle. You're taking the Panthers. Sunday Night Football. Button it up real quick here for the people. I'm going with the Rams on the road. I believe in Detroit long term. I think they're going to have a nice playoff run in them. but it's as if everyone's just like done with the Rams now, as if they don't still have a lot of talent on that roster, including Matthew Stafford, including Williams in the backfield, including Puka Nacua, who set all kinds of rookie records a year ago. Listen, are they injured? A lot of them? Sure. But I still think that there's a pedigree there. I'm interested to see how they perform. So I'm going to take them getting, by the way, 4.5 on the road in Detroit.
I'm gonna take the Detroit Lions. I
Yeah,
just think they're for real. I think life after Aaron Donald looks different for the Rams. And look, until someone can really stop the Lions offense from looking electric in
that's
that
right.
dome on Sunday night, like for me, I don't know. It could be one of those games where the Lions look like they're destined for the Super Bowl and the Rams don't look good, but then halfway through the season, the Rams start looking really, really good again. Give me the Detroit Lions.
Baby, oh baby, we've come to the end. The journey is finally here. It's Sunday. It's 1 p.m. The kickoff is happening. It's the Giants at home. Debut for Malik Nabers, the return of Daniel Jones from injury. This game is, of course, going to be the Giants at home, getting a 1.5. The over-under is set at 41.5, Andy. Who do you have? Why do you like it? Give me your prediction.
Well, optimism, hope springs eternal. Is that a good phrase to use, Adam? It just feels
I
like
guess you said they're only going to win 5 games this year, so,
oh, so yeah. So this is probably an easy loss on my calendar, right? Just
Yeah,
check
that's right.
check the box, put it on there. But Adam, I have the Giants winning this game. I am coming out just telling it like it is. I can't believe that the Giants are underdogs against Sam Darnold at home. That's how
Yeah.
lowly everybody thinks of the New York Giants. That's how lowly everyone thinks of Daniel Jones. I honestly do. I think Daniel Jones is just sick and tired of all the talk around him. He's like putting his chest out, being like, we're going to make the playoffs. The only way to do that is to start winning games and winning games very, very quickly, because I have a feeling there's a shorter leash than most people expect on Daniel Jones as the Giants quarterback. So I think the Giants are going to look significantly better across the offensive line. I've already highlighted how I think Wan'Dale Robinson is that security blanket. I think it would be great to see Malik Nabers do an impression of Odell Beckham. I kind of think someone like Darius Slayton, as I mentioned before, is a sneaky play. I have the Giants winning. I have the Giants putting up points, because if they're not putting up points against the Vikings, who are they putting up points against this year?
Yeah.
70 degrees and sunny in MetLife Stadium. Giants
That's
start out
it.
with a win. Give me the Giants 23, the Minnesota Vikings 17.
23-17. You know what? You're going to find out you're not that far off from me. I have the Giants winning this game as well. You heard me say it earlier, a couple of touchdowns potentially for Daniel Jones, liking the spread there and taking the alternate line -2.5. How do I get to that number? Well, I have the Giants winning the game 24-20, right? Down there late in the game. What would be more perfect? Let me paint a picture for you, ladies and gentlemen. It's already been a good game. It's been back and forth. Devin Singletary's doing his thing. Malik Nabers had some catches. Wan'Dale Robinson's cooking a little bit, but you're down 17-20 with 2 minutes to go. And that final drive, that comeback game-winning drive, is Daniel Jones getting over the top to Malik Nabers to seal the deal. I like the Giants' rebuilt offensive line, obviously. You mentioned Sam Darnold. I mean, listen, Daniel Jones, if you're going to be worth your weight at all this year, you need to be able to look at QB matchups and say Daniel Jones can be better. There's going to be a lot of games where we're automatically going to go in saying he's the underdog QB. This cannot be one of them. So I like the Giants to get over the top on this one. One of the things coming out of 2022, when you dial it back to when Daniel Jones played a full season, remember the Giants averaged 26 minutes of possession time at home and 30 minutes on the road. So they were almost dead money when they were away. They were under when they were at home. You got to find a way to kind of buck that trend there a little bit too. They were middle of the league. So do you have the opportunity over the course of this game to grind out some drives, maybe after a long one for Minnesota when the defense needs a breather, knowing all the high reps that you're going to have for your key defensive players across that front, for the secondary to have Shane Bowen make some adjustments on the fly? I like the idea of this team being a little bit more balanced, being a little bit more explosive. And listen, I'm saying they only have 17 points as we're well through the fourth quarter. So I'm not shooting for the moon here, but give me the Giants to get that little road comeback victory, late in the game, and give the fan base a little leak action at the end.
That's what I'm talking about. I want to hear the leak. Adam, we both have them scoring around the same points. You got to get over 20 points. Give the defense an opportunity to pin their ears back and be able to get after Sam Darnold. You and I feel very, very close on this one, where I think it's a one score game, one possession game. But ultimately, I think the Giants, outside of guys like Justin Jefferson, have more, capabilities across the entire offense and defense. So for me, give me the New York Football Giants.
That would be Andy taking the under on the 41.5 because he'll get to 40. I'd be taking just narrowly the over at 44. So go ahead, ladies and gentlemen. You got bets from Andy. You got parlays from me. You got game predictions, picks across the entire spectrum. You know right where you're going to find us after Sunday's game. Breaking it all down, talking about how the Giants kick things off in 2024 with a home victory, an excellent debut across the board. And while they're not supposed to be seen again for the rest of the season, one beautiful send-off for the Century uniforms, which everyone has some real issues with. Nothing swallows down a little bit of visual disgust with a home victory for Big Blue, but you know what to do. Until we come back around, you get us over on YouTube all week long. We broke down different aspects in the trenches, secondary, wide receivers, who's going to win it, Justin Jefferson, Malik Nabers. Those battles are throughout the week. Go find those, not only on YouTube, but also on our podcast feed. And as you know, until the next time, until that sweet, sweet best time when Big Blue gets the W, as Andrew Mackwitz would want, need, and nay, demand the people know.
As always, let's go Big Blue.